visit OnTableTop.com and comment on all 3 days of the Flames of War bootcamp to be in with a chance of winning one of 3 Flames of War bundles.
Hi everybody, we're back at the D-Day bootcamp. I'm here with Lewis, one of our reenactors, who is currently dressed up as a German soldier. So Lewis, what can you tell us about the kit you're wearing?
Right, well, currently what I'm wearing here at the minute is it's a member of the 12th Panzer Division, known as the Hitlerjugend. I sort of brought this one in today mainly because we've got this fantastic can board behind us, and that's mainly where a lot of their fights were during the Normandy landings, was northwest of Caen against the Canadians. So, right, where do you want me to start?
Well, basically, what is the basic kit that you're loaded out with as a German soldier? So, ground up.
Okay, right. Well, ground up, I'll start with my boots. I'm currently wearing ankle boots. They would have wore jack boots too, but the ankle boots tended to be a little bit more comfortable. Though jack boots were nice and all, but at this stage of the war, a lot of the supplies getting run down, bombed, and things like that, so they can get what they, they take what they get. On top of that, I'm wearing a pair of wool socks. These are completely useless. You will put your foot straight through them if you try to put on any sort of force to put them on. They kind of use those to tidy up, I suppose. There's no real reason behind it. It was just kind of neat and tidy, kept your laces out of the way, etc., etc. And then moving up, I've got a pair of M43 trousers. Now, these are your bog standard. These would have been German army. You see pictures of some of the Luftwaffe wearing them. You see Waffen-SS as well wearing them too. These were your standard issue trousers. And then coming up from that, the next thing I'll talk about is the smock. So this is a M38 Palm smock. So as you can see, it's all really weird camouflage pattern. So these were the first sets of smocks that you see going into production with the German military. There's some debate whether these were actually made because they were going over the border into Russia and Estonia. These were made to sort of blend in with the Estonian and Russian heartland, forests, trees, stuff like that. They usually came down to about your thighs, so you could, it was a big, like a smock basically. And unfortunately, they had a lot of problems where it was one size fits all. So if you can see.
Yeah, that's pretty baggy.
It's a bit baggy, yeah. So a lot of guys had these problems, and what they did was some of them rolled them up, like I'm wearing at the minute, so that they could get to their tunic pockets. Now, I'm not wearing a tunic, but it would come down to about here, so they rolled them up so they could get at their bottom pockets. Coming up from that, I've got a belt. So this is just your standard enlisted man's belt. So it's a black belt with a steel buckle in the middle. This would have had all your equipment, as you can see. Get a good look.
So you've got your bread bag, your canteen, your mess mug. You've actually got a notepad pouch here as well.
Well, you were talking about the bog standard stuff. So we've kind of got to the bog standard stuff now. What I'm wearing is a little bit more specialized. So what I've got here is a map case. So this is my impressions in NCO. So this would have been filled with. Oh well, we'll take a couple of maps out and you have a look.
Oh, you actually have some maps in there.
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 maps now. They're not exactly accurate, but you get the idea. So that map is roughly that's Holland. So that's a few months down the line after D-Day, but you get the idea of what the sort of things they had in them. So this would have been squad leader, and then you would have had a couple of pencils and stuff in the front, maybe a ruler, a sextant, so you can do readings, bearings, things like that. And that's pretty much the more specialised side of things. Squad leader leading, everybody else needs to know his coordinates and his map placement. Coming around from that, we've got MP40 pouches. So these are actually kind of everything else that I'm wearing at the minute, these are the only things that are original.
Right, so these are, were they issued or non-issued?
These are issued, so these are issued to squad leaders.
But was this particular set issued?
Yes, this fought through the Second World War, and there's a couple other things we're going to come to that fought through the Second World War that I think the boot campers really going to get a kick out of. But yeah, these are original. I sort of have to use them on and off because the age that they are,
be delicate with them.
With, yeah, sometimes. On top of that, so I've covered my map case, MP40 pouches, and then on the back you'll see I've got a bread bag and my water bottle. Now, the one thing I am missing is on the left hand side here, you would have like a square canteen. which would hang off that too. Now, depending on the situation, you wouldn't have wore all your gear at once. And so if you were going forward on an attack, you wouldn't want necessarily everything jumbling and rumbling around on you. You see a lot of pictures, especially with the Hitlerjugend and outside of Caen, where they're stripped down, so they've maybe got their weapons, their pouches, a grenade, that's it, their helmet, and then it's all go, so they can be mobile. And then coming around to my left-hand side.
Yep. So I'm seeing a bayonet and an entrenching tool, which could also be turned into a weapon. Yeah.
Yes, those were actually quite sharp in the edge, and you do actually see a lot of them. Like I was talking about, getting them cut down. Where I've got my grenade, which I'll come to in a moment, you do see a lot of them wearing the shovel in there as well. So that, because the biggest problem is this.
Yeah, trying to get at that looks like it might be a little... Oh, it's actually hitting against your leg. Yeah, I see it.
But yes, and then on top of that, I've also got a bayonet, but it's a K98 one. Now, those were issued to everybody, but you could also use them as a fighting knife as well. So, standard issue equipment. Then on my shoulders, I'm also wearing... A lot of the pictures you see of Germans, it's leather equipment. These are different. These are, now, it's a reenactorism, as I like to call it. But these are called tropical Y straps. Now, they're made from canvas because they're nice and lightweight. But the reason they were made from canvas is because it was cheaper to produce than high-quality leather equipment. And faster as well.
Yeah, mass production.
Yeah, so you see a lot of pictures of guys wearing these too, as well as what the cut-down lightweight versions of the Y straps.
And again, with the supply issues that they were facing, I'm guessing it was just, can I get something that'll work? Yes, send it out. Pretty
much, yeah. In comparison to the likes of the stuff that the Allies were pumping out, if anybody, I don't know if anybody here who's watching for the UK watched the highlights from the beach yesterday, but James Holland, a fantastic historian, great man. He talks about the supply situation in both the German and the American, or the Allied side. As an example, he said that at one point there was a scout car that was blowing up. I think it was the Sherbrooke Fusiliers or something with the Canadians.
Yeah.
They lost the scout car with all the equipment and all the maps that the headquarters section was using. An hour later, it was replaced with all the maps and the radio equipment.
Wow.
If the Germans lost something, they weren't getting it back. Yeah. They lost it. They weren't getting it back, mainly because Allied air power, and they were just so disorganized on the day. But yeah, so that's pretty much all the webbing and stuff like that. Oh yes, the helmet. Biggest part of the whole thing wearing it in my head. So the helmet is an M43. So it's your standard style helm, as they like to call it. So it's they've come down around your ears, and then obviously helmets since have, even with NATO in the United States and Britain, they all start to come down around your ears because it protects your ears, the side of your head.
Yep.
I'm also wearing it's a overprint, or M40 overprint cover. So you see the way the camouflage is different. They did actually produce these in this color and vice versa. So they produced this in that color. So you get a wide variation of camouflage being used by the Germans at this point in time. This is the early one. Later ones came with little loops on the shoulders, as well as the smock, where you could put foliage and things, blend yourself into the environment. And that is pretty much all I have to talk about as far as equipment I'm wearing. So, right, let's get on to the heavy stuff.
All right, now, you are carrying one of the iconic weapons of the war. This is the MP40.
So this is the MP40. I'll throw my hat down. 9mm. It is a 32 round magazine, as you can see. And if you can see, if the camera can zoom in, you see the little 32 mark. It show you when it's full. Now, they never filled them to 32 because it caused feeding problems. It tended to push the nose either too far up or too far down, so whenever the bolt would go home, it would jam them into the actual thing, or it just wouldn't feed. So they fed them to 25, which kept it relatively okay. Quite a reliable weapon. It's all made out of pressed steel, so it's super lightweight. It is a folding stock weapon. See, there's a little button you press here on the other side, which then pulls that out, and that locks in place. As you can see, nice to shoulder.
Yeah. Now, you see, this really is one of the grandfathers of the submachine gun category of weapon.
Pretty much, yeah. And I mean, they have this misconception, it's called the Schmeisser. Now, that's untrue. The only thing the reason they called it the Schmeisser was the guy Schmeisser who made the original machine pistols. He held the patent for the magazines. So whenever someone, I can't remember how it came about, but the Allies picked up one of these, saw the Schmeisser on the side, and thought, oh, this must be made by Hugo Schmeisser. It's not, it's just the magazines. He had the patent for the magazines.
So sure he made his money out of that.
Oh, I'm sure he did. But as you can see, this thing is, there's no real safety mechanism in this.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that if you can see there, that is live. Now, being a replica, this does not push in, but there's a little recess there. And what you do is you would push that in, it would click, which meant that you couldn't pull the bolt back.
Yeah.
But if you were reloading and you wanted to put it on safe so that you knew that if you pulled the trigger, nothing would happen, what you do is you grasp it like this, pull the charging handle back, push it up into the little notch. So now, nothing. That's a 9mm submachine pistol. It fires from an open bolt, so whenever it's empty, it'll stay forward. So that way you didn't have to second guess yourself. So once it stopped coming back and staying there, and it just went forward and didn't come back, you knew you were empty. Again, these things were so controllable that men who wielded them could say you could write your name with it.
Okay, that's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge with a machine pistol, and I've never really saw anybody do it, but I've fired one, and I can understand where he's coming from. It's very accurate. If someone was standing in front of you, say, 100 yards away, and you decide you were going to let rip with this, you have a good chance of hitting him with a lot of lead.
This is something I was going to ask. Because it is only a 9mm, what is the recoil suppression like on this weapon?
Very minimal. It's due to the fact that it's got a... I wouldn't say it's hefty. It's just the right weight. But the recoil and the way that the weapon works, in fact, I'll do a feed strip of it here and show you.
Yeah, sure. Let's come across here where we've got some room, and you can talk us through it.
Right. So as you see here in the bottom here, you've got this button here. So you do is you pull that out, rotate it 1/4 to the right, take the magazine out, pull the trigger in, twist, pull apart.
Okay, that's clever.
Feed strip. That's it. You take the bolt out of the rear of the gun, and it's a telescoping rod. So your firing pin is, I don't know if you can see that, it's just a small little pin in there that protrudes out the front. That's what sets your rounds off. And as you can see, it's quite weird because you see a lot of weapons that come with like a big recoil spring and everything else that comes with it. But this is it's a telescoping bolt. I don't know of any other weapon in the world that does this. It's a pneumatic and spring powered bolt, which whenever you're pulling the trigger, if you ever see a real one fired, the bolt doesn't look like it's slamming against the back of the receiver. It just looks like it's floating. It's the strangest thing. If you watch it really closely, it just looks like it's floating in the inside of the gun, which is one of the reasons it was so controllable, because the bolt never hit the back of the gun. It just was enough power to keep it balanced.
Yeah, so it would actually be slowing down as the pressure upon the spring was increasing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Fantastic.
That's very cool. It's one of the most beautiful pieces that I've seen from the German stuff. Whoop.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest problem with these replicas. I'll set that
okay.
Sort it later. But yeah, so that's the MP40.
Now, we have something else.
So
hiding behind you. Let's move up and behind, because this is Hitler's buzzsaw.
This is the infamous MG42. It's a 7.92 caliber, belt-fed, 1200 round a minute monster. It fires from an open bolt. So what you do is to load it, you'd open this catch here. Bear with me, this thing's old.
Is this an original or a replica?
Well, this is actually original. However, there is a story behind it. This one in particular, if you look in the top cover, you'll see Cyrillic, almost Russian. It's actually Yugoslavian. So what happened was, we're now past D-Day. We are at the end of the war. Yeah. Yugoslavia, Joseph Broz Tito, who was the head of the Yugoslavian partisans and the Yugoslavian military in exile, overran the factories where these were made. Of course, all they did was take the machines out of the factories or left the factories where they were. So they produced MG42s, like pure MG42s, but they just stamped them with the shield and everything in Yugoslavia. This is an MG42, but it doesn't have any of the, the Waffenamts that you'd see in a lot of weapons that were, the Reich Chancellery or something like that. But it's not as highly sought after as an original one, because the original one has that history, you know?
Yeah, now, one of the key things for this particular weapon is this was the monster on the beach. This is the one that was sawing wave after wave down as they were rolling in.
This was what was protecting the Atlantic Wall. Exactly why the casualties were so high. These things are 1,200 rounds a minute. They fire so quickly. To put it into perspective, they fire so quickly that GIs on the and British and Canadian troops at the time said that they couldn't count the individual shots, and it sounded like someone ripping a cloth sheet. The biggest problem this thing was actually its greatest advantage was its rate of fire. So what happened was you've got the barrel in here. After 200 to 300 rounds, you had to reload the barrel or change the barrel because it was in danger of overheating and potentially causing a cook-off inside the gun.
I actually have seen videos online where I've seen one of these go on a runaway, and it is very scary to see.
Scary because if it goes in a runaway, you hold it on. There's no, it's like a runaway train. You just got to hold on till it stops. Yeah. But anyway, so how this is fed? So it's usually fed from belts of 50 to 100 out of these boxes like these. So it opens up, you open up the top cover, you can see all your working parts in there, and like I was saying about very long springs and guns. So there you go, it's double wound as well, so it's super, super tensile. This tensile strength behind it's very powerful.
It's required.
Oh yeah, definitely. So first of all, you lift it up, check there's no casings or anything on the inside or anything blocking it or links. Then what you do is you take one of these.
Oh, you have rounds?
Yep, I do. Come prepared. That comes out, and then lay that into the tray. Now there's an empty one in there in case anyone's wondering, because this is deactivated, so if it picks up one it won't jam it in, just in case you're wondering. So you hold that out, so that's your spoon holding the belt in place. You push it over. Nope. Well, not rack that back, but you rack it back and off it goes.
Yeah.
It's a nasty, nasty bit of kit. And also, you were talking about little things that have come in, or you were using World War II, so you had the MP40 pouches. This is an original one that was brought back, as far as I'm aware, from France.
So this ammo can?
Yeah, that ammo can is from France.
See, that's something I love about World War II, is you can actually get your hands on some of those touchstones, those items that would have been there, and to actually see and hold those. A few months ago, we actually had a fella come in who brought in, I think it was his great-grandfather's notebook from it.
Oh, wow.
And his great-grandfather was actually a sketch artist, so it has all of these beautiful sketches on it. Now, I'm not sure if it was a reproduction or something that he had picked up that had been put in print after the war, but actually just holding this little book was falling apart. But to open it and actually see what this man had drawn from his days in the field, that's just something incredibly special.
It's a little bit more poignant because it's still in living memory. We still have these veterans. Again, coming back to the highlights from the boot, or not the boot camp, because we're still at it. The highlights from the beach yesterday that the BBC ran. Yeah. There's something quite poignant about seeing 95-year-olds move to the way they were, and I mean, that's one of the reasons that I do it. And you'll speak to John. I mean, you see him every day on the website, but you'll speak to him later on, and this is why we do what we do. It's to keep it alive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it's also incredible to see. I mean, like there was one of the most beautiful moments from that on actual D-Day was there was a paratrooper who actually jumped on D-Day, and he has jumped at every one of the anniversaries since. Absolutely. So I mean, like to see that man, he's 97 years old now, and he still makes that jump every year. That is amazing.
Breed, though.
Oh yeah,
Spars are a special breed. They're some of the most hardy veterans you'll meet. Not to take away from anybody else, but the Pars are a special sort of crazy. Yeah. I'm sorry if there's any paratroopers watching, Gianna. Sorry.
No, she'll probably just be sitting there going, "Damn right, don't you forget it."
More than likely. Right. So to finish on a smaller note, because I've just remembered I have it.
Yeah. How do you forget you have a grenade?
Yeah, I know. You can't really talk about Germany without doing a stick grenade. So this one here is an M43. It's a later version of the German stick grenade, or potato mashers as the Americans called them. It's different because the fuse is at the top. Now the reason behind that was whenever they made the original stick grenades, the cap was at the bottom, then you had a 3-stage fuse. So this set off one, that set off another, which then set the grenade off. Problem with that is copper costs money.
Yeah.
and the stick grenades were quite expensive to produce. So eventually what they decided to do was, well, why don't we just take the fuse from there and stick it there. That'll do. So that's what that is. It's the same sort of fuse you see on, I don't have one with me. I might have someone with me over the weekend that does have one, but they have egg grenades where they started to look more like American, you know, conventional grenades, what everybody thinks a grenade looks like. Yeah. And there are a little wire fuse in here that what you do is you screw that off, put your fingers around it and pull it until you start hearing a burning sound. Then you throw it. You've got about 3 seconds from the time you pull it, and it's not like 1, 2, it's 1, 2, 3. So essentially you've maybe got 2.5 seconds to throw the thing before it goes off. So it's not really
right. So basically, pull it and chuck it.
Yeah, basically pull it and chuck it is the name of the game. But with these, you can throw these farther than you can a regular hand grenade because the way I look at it is the head wags the tail. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, one of the other good design aspects of actually having that handle on there is if this thing actually lands on like a hill or something, it'll only roll the length of its actual handle.
Yeah. It wouldn't. If you threw a pineapple grenade or something up a hill, because it's like a ball shape. I know it's not ball shape, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's got the ability to roll back at you.
The ability to roll back at you. You threw one of these up a hill and it lands in the right place. What's the worst thing it's going to do? Maybe roll to the left and away. Yeah. You know, it's not going to come tumbling back down the hill towards you, which is every GI's worst nightmare, you know?
Yeah. Well, Lewis, thank you very much for taking us through the kit. I love seeing the MP40. The MG42 is just such a gorgeous piece of kit.
Everybody loves the MG42. Everybody.
Well, everybody, I tell you what, get your comments in below. Tell us what you think. Did you enjoy this one? We'll move on and we'll see you again very soon from the bootcamp.
Visit OnTableTop.com and comment on all 3 days of the Flames of War bootcamp to be in with a chance of winning one of 3 Flames of War bundles.